Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was in Assassin's Creed. Naruto and Sasuke were having their fight at the Valley of the End and Naruto was winning, but someone decided to interfere and Naruto was taken from his world before being commissioned for a mission by two ancient beings. Naruto is to go to a new world and learn from two factions before coming home. Welcome aboard! Chapter 4, A Show of Skill. Last time, he stated, and many paled in fear at the demon being able to kill them without anyone being able to do anything about it, as everyone saw the various daimyos nod their heads, confirming what he said was true. Next, anyone who attempts to attack me after the match has clearly been decided will be beaten to an inch of their lives if I am feeling nice, and anyone who has lost cannot try again, so get that out of your heads now as well. Next, even if you are in the stands and you attack, I can attack you there regardless of who is around you or where you try to run, so there is no safe place for you in here, and I will even hunt you down in the village if you should try to run for it. Naruto stated, with his smirk increasing at the many scared and paled faces of the villagers. Now that has been stated, this exhibition will not end until all Konoha 11 have faced me and lost, with the added stipulation that it will continue to their senseis as well, or until I lose. Naruto stated, making sure everyone heard him clearly before he popped his neck audibly. Now that has been settled, we can begin. Send the first of the Konoha 11. He stated, and there was silence for a bit before footsteps echoed out and he saw his first opponent, causing him to raise an eyebrow. Really? They chose you to go first? He stated, as he didn't see why they would other than just to get it out of the way. Now, Naruto stared at the person before him unimpressed, since she clearly hadn't done much in the past 5 years, and why would she when all she could think about was winning Sasuke? So they are just starting with the weakest to get it out of the way, as Sakura. He stated as Sakura growled at him and Naruto rolled his eyes before turning to the others. Really? You send her first? What, did you think I was going to get hurt out of some misguided view that I couldn't take a shot at her? Newsflash, I faked that bullshit all those years so the idiots of this village would think I was an idiot and not seriously training. He stated before he lifted his hand and caught Sakura's fist, shocking everyone as, while not as strong as Tsunade, her strength was nothing to sneeze at. That's it? 5 years and this is it? He asked before he put his hand, fingers out, at her stomach before he bent them and put his fist into her gut, making her drop to her knees, and he sidestepped as she puked her stomach contents up, and Naruto rolled his eyes. You learned how to somewhat give a hit, but you never learned to take one. He stated before he chopped her neck, knocking her out before he lifted her by her neck and turned her head towards the recovery area and with him behind her before aiming with his thumb. He's not really going to. Jiraiya didn't finish as Naruto reared back his foot. Punt! He yelled before he literally kicked Sakura in the ass and sent her flying into the air. It's going, it's going. He stated right before she went crashing into the wall of the recovery area, and he raised his arms straight into the air, and it's good. He stated before he simply walked to his starting spot, if about 3 feet from where Sakura puked. Next, he called, making several from the village grit their teeth, but they decided to wait since they wanted to see if someone would weaken the demon brat enough they could just swarm him and kill him. Naruto heard more footsteps and looked to see Ino coming towards him, and he sighed as she took her ready stance. Word of advice. He stated, making her look at him confused. Don't try the mind transfer jutsu, whether it hits or not will not end well for you. He warned, and she had to give him that since, when news about Naruto's life came out, her father had warned her that regardless of any other talents Naruto had, he could defeat any member of their clan if they tried mental jutsu on him, since the Kyuubi would throw them out or cause harm to them. With that in mind, she threw several kunai at him, which he casually batted aside with his gauntlets before he caught the last one and threw back faster than she could follow, and it cut her cheek before she felt hot breath on her neck. I'm disappointed, Ino-chan, 5 years, and you didn't bother to learn a thing besides your family jutsu. What would have happened if I was a real enemy and either was a Jinchuriki or had faced a Yamanaka before and knew how to get past the jutsu? He asked as his hands went up and down her sides, making her blush and bite back a moan as his hands felt nice on her. You know I need to knock you out if you won't surrender. He stated, and she nodded before she blacked out, and he carried her up the wall and put her in the recovery area where Shizen was waiting, and he kissed Ino's forehead before he turned back to the field. Naruto jumped down and stood again as he saw Kiba coming in, and he smirked. How bad did my Yamato beat the hell out of you after I left? He asked, knowing that was the only reason that they hadn't sent Hinata out before Kiba, and Kiba chuckled nervously as Akamaru whimpered a little. I think you can take a good guess. he stated as he felt his arms twitch from phantom pain as his left arm and right leg were paralyzed for over a week while the right arm and left leg were hit in a way that made the nerve endings light up like a Christmas tree, and that wasn't counting the bruises, broken bones, and other injuries he had. Akamaru just got a jab to the neck to knock him out since he was just a bystander to it all. Naruto smirked and waved him to come on while his other hand went to a pouch and grabbed something. Kiba quickly got on all fours after giving Akamaru a food pill, ninja art, man-beast clone. He called as Akamaru turned into another Kiba and the two ran at him with Naruto throwing an item into the field, between them making a cloud of smoke, making both smirk. "Nice try Naruto, but we used this on you in the Chunin exams," Kiba stated while Naruto rolled his eyes behind the smoke as Kiba crashed right through the smoke and both he and Akamaru emerged on the other side out cold and snoring rather loudly. Naruto shook his head while everyone else was sweat dropping at the sight before they heard Naruto speak. "Just because it was smoke, doesn't mean it was meant for distraction, Kiba," he stated before he grabbed the two and dragged them to the recovery area and jumped back down as he glanced at the Jonin senseis. "This is pathetic and reflects very poorly on you guys and the village," he stated before turning to see Hinata coming towards him and she moved to her gentle fist stance without her Byakugan on surprising people and Naruto smirked. "I see you remember that lesson I taught you," he stated making people frown in confusion even as Hinata nodded. "Yes, I may not know what you have learned in your time away, but I know that you may have something to use against the Byakugan and it would be better for me if I didn't use it," she stated, and Naruto smirked wider and moved to a stance that was similar to what Lee would, but Naruto had his left arm behind him and his right extended outwards with his fingers pointing at Hinata. At an unseen signal, Hinata charged at Naruto and began releasing a barrage of strikes that Naruto deflected with his one arm or dodged out of the way of with rapid speed, surprising people at his usage of taijutsu and caught the attention of two youthful members of Konoha. Naruto broke them apart by delivering a kick to Hinata that sent her skidding back. "Good, adaptation, improvisation, but your weakness is not in your technique," Naruto stated as he moved a few steps and Hinata frowned before blowing her hair out of her face and charged back at him with him blocking her again. Naruto and Hinata continued their dance before Naruto got through and put his fist less than an inch from her face and she jumped back. "What are you waiting for? You're faster than this," he asked, then stated as he resumed his ready position. "Don't think you are, no you are," he stated, and Hinata took a calming breath before she shifted her stance to the form of gentle fist that reflected her natural flexibility over brute force, which Naruto theorized was due to her having a different affinity than the rest of her clan, and charged back at Naruto, maneuvering much better and going faster than before, but still couldn't land a hit on him. Needless to say, this shocked many as no one expected Naruto to be able to keep up in a taijutsu fight, let alone against a Hyuga. "Damn, Mr. 9 is so fly, he ain't never gonna die," the Raikage's brother, Killer Bee, stated /rapped, making the Raikage, and the woman, named Yujido, groan before they paused at his words. "Mr. 9? You mean he's..." I didn't finish as Bee deadpanned him, and I recalled Naruto talking about the Kyuubi and a gulp since the boy could be stronger than his brother was with the demon's power, and he was so preoccupied by his observations that he missed Yujido blushing and fidgeting since her demon was telling her to try and get Naruto as a mate since he was definitely the most powerful man she had come across since the Sage of Six Paths. That Sachikage and his two were no better than the Raikage since the two males were afraid and the girl, Kuratsuchi, was blushing and fidgeting. Tsunade was also impressed with his display so far, though she felt jealous when she saw Naruto doing what he did to Ino, as she wanted to trade places with her that instant. She wasn't the only one, as there were several women, not counting the 4 that were already with Naruto, that had wanted to swap places with her and be the one that he was caressing and touching like that. They all broke from their thoughts as Naruto swept Hinata's legs out from under her and put his fist at her face, showing she lost. Naruto smiled and helped her up before kissing her forehead, and she walked off with Naruto popping his neck, and Shoji came out and nodded to him before he quickly used his expansion jutsu and launched himself at Naruto in boulder form. Naruto merely sighed and pulled the strange wooden item off his back, showing his rifle that he modeled after Shei Cormac's, and jumped on top of Choji's form and began riding him like a professional log roller, and cocked the rifle before he fired it 3 times and jumped off just as Choji came to a stop and deflated, showing he was out like a light with 3 darts in his stomach, and Naruto shook his head slightly before he grabbed Choji and took him to recovery, before retaking his spot as Tenten came out and winked at him before she took a kunai, and Naruto stood there completely calm. Tenten waited a few minutes before she threw 5 kunai at him, only to be shocked and confused as they curved around him like they were being repelled by something. Tenten frowned as Naruto smirked. You'll have to do better than just throw things at me, Tenten. Naruto stated, and she frowned before she unsealed a sword and saluted him before she took her stance. Naruto raised an eyebrow before he moved his hand, and everyone believed he was going for the sword on his hip, but instead he went into his coat and pulled out a blade that made everyone widen their eyes. Why, you ask? Because it was Kubakirabocho, only it was the length of a katana, if a bit shorter by an inch or so, and just a bit thicker, and Naruto smirked at her as he had it out to his side in one hand, surprised. I got the opportunity to talk with Sabuza Momochi, and he decided to make me the heir to Kubakirabocho, and I added a seal and other things so I could adjust it as needed. I can let it be full-sized or anywhere in between full-sized and a dagger depending on what I need, which helps in a cramped space such as a hallway or if your allies are fighting in close proximity to you. Naruto stated, enjoying the shocked and surprised looks before Tenten schooled her features and came at Naruto with an overhead swing that he casually blocked with his own blade and didn't seem to be struggling against the attack at all. But considering what he did to Sakura, that shouldn't be too surprising. Naruto easily pushed her back and then blocked her continued strikes with precise and careful movements as Tenten struck faster and harder. Naruto dodged an overhead slash and slapped Tenten's ass with his sword, making her squeak with a blush while Naruto held his smirk. You're getting sloppy, Tenten. Don't tell me all you did in the last 5 years is just train with weapons and nothing else? He stated as she blushed at him while he smirked and walked towards her with her holding her sword at the ready before he slammed his fist on the blunt end of her sword, causing it to come out of her hand and flip with the handle landing in his free hand, and he held both at her throat. You really disappoint me since you claim to be a weapon mistress yet you didn't master any of the weapons you use. He stated, and Tenten wallowed nervously before she nodded slightly. I yield to you, Naruto-sama. She stated, showing her acknowledgement that he was the better swordsman before he twirled the blade and handed it back to her, and he kissed her hand, making her blush as she left the field, and he gazed over the audience and the remaining competitors. Naruto knew fully well that they were waiting for him to show some kind of weakness or sign of slowing, and they were going to be very disappointed. Naruto turned his attention to his next opponent in the form of Shino, who nodded to him and stood there across from Naruto while said assassin sealed Kubakirabocho away again. Shino and Naruto stood there unmoving, making people tense before Naruto sighed. You realize we'll be here all day before your Kakashi get through half my chakra? Naruto asked, making Shino widened his eyes as he wasn't sure Naruto had noticed his swarm had been slowly approaching him. I'll give you a warning. If your insects feel my chakra start to pulse, then they better run or your queen will lose quite a bit of her colony. He warned, and Shino could tell he was dead serious and quickly had the queen direct her children to do just that before they swarmed Naruto, covering him from head to toe while he remained there with his arms crossed and just let the Kakashi eat his chakra, surprising people. However, many became even more shocked as several of the insects flew back, indicating they had eaten their fill of chakra, and the rest immediately fled as Naruto built his chakra and it turned into a glow before it looked like he was on fire, with the chakra taking a ghostly blue color. And Shino, along with the other Aburame and the Naras, knew why Naruto warned Shino. Ingenious. Shibi stated, catching the other clan head's attention. You see it too? Shikaku asked, and Shibi nodded, getting confused looks from the others, and Shibi elaborated. Naruto-san has mastered his chakra to the point he can make an aura of it, and using it he would have trapped my son's allies within, and they would have been force-fed until they died or simply been incinerated, depending on if he is able to mold chakra around him with an affinity. Shibi stated, shocking the others since that could also be used to block the gentle fist style as well. They weren't the only ones to realize this, as the Kage and their tagalongs also realized this, and realized the man before them could potentially use both Minato's deadly technique as well as his own lightning armor, with the other Kage finding their own evaluations to be similar. Naruto rolled his shoulders as he looked to Shino before he was gone, and Shino felt some kind of cylindrical item pressed against his temple. I would like you to surrender now, before I have to execute you in front of your father. Naruto stated as a loud click was heard as Naruto held a revolver to Shino's head, not that the witnesses knew what it was, and Shino nodded before Naruto stepped back and Shino saw the weapon. It was pure black and seemed to be some kind of long-range weapon like the chakra cannons that were rumored to be in development, but this was on a handheld scale. The revolver was pitch black with gold accents, ivory handles, silver designs etched into it along some kind of tube, and a cylinder-type item in the middle in front of a lever mechanism of some kind that led to the metal tube that was at least 5 inches long, and there was another lever of a different kind under the cylinder with a metal guard over it. Naruto then holstered it on his ribcage again. I'll find you later, I have a taijutsu style that you and your clan could use. Naruto stated, and Shino raised his eyebrows before nodding and left with Shikamaru lazily coming down. Shikamaru stood there unmoving, as did Naruto, with Naruto being calm and relaxed as he stood there. You know. Naruto started making Shikamaru look at him. I expected someone to learn something that they didn't already know or that was still connected to what you already knew. He stated before he suddenly went poof, surprising Shikamaru and everyone else, before he felt a cord wrap around his neck and he was yanked towards the tree line before he was stretched till only his toes were touching the ground and he noticed Naruto there just leaning against the tree and smoking a cigar, which unknown to Shikamaru was a habit he picked up during the centuries and really got into it when he started smoking with Teddy Roosevelt. That shadow possession jutsu is really a battle of wills instead of just a full-on control thing, just like with the Yamanaka techniques. Even if it wasn't a clone you ensnared, I had over 30 different ways to either kill you or break your control. Now, since I know you can't speak at the moment, blink once for yes and nothing for no. Do you give up? Naruto informed, then asked, and he swore. Shikamaru muttered a troublesome before he blinked once and was instantly released from the cord, and Shikamaru coughed a bit before he nodded to Naruto and left with Lee jumping down the moment Shikamaru was off the field. Naruto analyzed Lee a moment as he wrapped the cord up and put it away before audibly popping his neck and used some fire chakra to burn the cigar before the two were gone, with them reappearing with Naruto's foot planted in Lee's stomach and Lee's fist above Naruto's head. He's faster than Lee. Everyone that knew of Lee thought in shock, with the young man having the same thoughts before he was sent sailing back with Naruto coming after him. Naruto then shocked them all further by appearing and kicking Lee higher into the air before he grabbed him from behind and spun before slamming him into the ground, showing them that he knew the primary lotus. Naruto landed back at his starting point, shocking Guy and a few others since he didn't even seem winded. As the dust cleared, Lee appeared shaking his head to clear the cobwebs while appearing a bit bruised and battered but showed no signs of stopping. Naruto motioned to his legs and Lee smiled before he took his weights off, making craters, and Naruto smirked as he removed his cloak, vest/holsters, gauntlets, and belt and sealed them into his arms, showing his refined body and making several girls/women blush and drool at his body and the markings on his face, giving him a mature look before he took off against Lee again, and they met in the middle, releasing a flurry of blows with Naruto being the only connecting as he attacked. Naturally, this shocked people even further as Naruto was easily keeping up with Lee and was winning, with many knowing why Naruto was going so hard on Lee. Naruto ended it when he appeared above Lee and delivered a double hammer fist, sending Lee into the ground. Naruto stared at Lee a minute before he grabbed Lee's leg and pulled him out of the crater. You done, Lee? We can spar again later, he asked, and Lee groaned as he got up to his knees and nodded before Naruto carried him and his weights to the rest area and found Neji down there waiting for him. As he came back down, he put his other items back on, making several women pout. Neji looked at his comrade with a calculating gaze. May I ask why you went so hard on Lee? He asked, and Naruto merely looked at him before pulling his hood back up. I wasn't about to disrespect him by holding back too much since I knew he wouldn't want me to, he stated, and Neji nodded to him, though he and everyone noted Naruto said he didn't hold back too much, before taking his stance and activating his Byakugan, and widened his eyes a minuscule fraction before he saw Naruto sign him something and gave the briefest of nods. Naruto stared at him as Neji got ready to move and knew he was surprising people with his patience. After waiting a minute, Neji moved forward and Naruto blocked his strikes and kept maneuvering through them before he locked arms with Neji. Come on, stop trying to hit me and hit me, Naruto stated as he kept moving and blocking Neji's strikes before he turned sideways and began blocking Neji's strikes before he palm thrusted Neji away, making him stumble before he caught himself and moved to the 64 palm stance, and Naruto looked at him incredulously. Really? That didn't work last time, he stated, and Neji smirked slightly. 8 trigrams, 128 palms, he stated, and Naruto sighed as Neji launched himself, and Naruto quickly bent backward, showing true flexibility as he nearly bent clean in half and grabbed Neji's outstretched arm and twisted it, making Neji go with it before he found himself on the ground with Naruto's revolver at his head and his arm wrenched behind his back. Neji gritted his teeth since Naruto's knee was planted between his shoulders and then sighed, I submit, he stated, and Naruto nodded before he helped him up and patted him on the back before seeing Sasuke coming down, and the villager and ninja immediately cheered, thinking Sasuke would kill him. Sasuke twitched an eye at the village cheering for him to kill Naruto before he growled loudly, shut up you morons. He shouted, surprising people, I'm not gonna kill him because you all are too damn stupid to see past your own hatred. Sasuke shouted again, making many gawk at him while Naruto chuckled. As nice as it is to have you on my side, team, it is rather pointless since Kyuubi is dead, he stated, getting shocked looks from everyone but Gaara and Haku. Yeah, the seal finished him off a while ago. Shame too, sometimes he was the only one to talk to and it wasn't exactly his fault he attacked Konoha, though considering several people all over the country treat Biju and Jinchuriki as weapons and monsters, when they are the ones who made us that way in the first place and then throw a fit when we rebel when they know fully well that they would do the same in our place, I wouldn't be that surprised if he had wanted to destroy the village. He stated, giving a pointed glare at the elders, that Sachikage, and a few other ninja, making them and others flinch. Anyway, I don't really give a damn what these people want and I'll be able to tell who is trying to save face, so those that screwed me over as a kid can go fuck themselves, as they ain't getting shit from me in regards to power, status, wealth, or forgiveness. But this is kinda outside of why we are here, since I am supposed to fight you, but considering I kicked your ass at the Valley of the End and had to hold back not to kill you, and your eyes tell me you know I could beat you if we fought now, I guess it is up to you if we fight or not. Naruto stated uncaringly, since he knew the moment that Sasuke was out, Kakashi would come down, and regardless of that there would be more of them to come at him. Sasuke slumped over, knowing it was true, as he had yet to hit that level that he felt Naruto did even without the Kyuubi's power, and after seeing his speed and everything, there was no way he could win, and Naruto hadn't even used a jutsu besides making one shadow clone. He would like to have a spar with Naruto without people wanting to chant for death though, and maybe even train under him just to get stronger, since he had decided that if Itachi came for him then he would fight to kill him, but he wasn't going to actively seek him out to fight. With that in mind he sighed, just knock me out and then Shizune can wake me up for any other matches. Just agree to have a spar with me later, since it would help me if nothing else, since that snake bastard is still after me, he stated, and Naruto shrugged before he appeared behind him and chopped his neck, knocking him out before he put him in the recovery area, and Shizune quickly woke him up in time to see Kakashi come down with a furious gaze in his eye. Naruto rolled his eyes as Kakashi lifted his headband and stared at Naruto with his transplant Sharingan, and Naruto yawned, making Kakashi furious before he quickly made a Raikiri and shot at Naruto, with Naruto not moving. A few of the women were about to shout out when Naruto shocked them all, no pun intended, especially Sasuke, Kakashi, and the Kyuumo ninja. What did he do, you ask? Well, Naruto grabbed Kakashi's lightning-coated hand with his right hand, then put two fingers at his right wrist, dragged them up to his shoulder, down to his belly, over and up to his left shoulder before the Raikiri reformed in Naruto's other hand, before he twisted and slammed Kakashi into the ground and then slammed the Raikiri into the ground beside his head. Needless to say, everyone was stunned, and Naruto frowned before he flexed his left hand and slammed his palm over Kakashi's Sharingan before it glowed gold, and Kakashi released a scream of pain before Naruto pulled his hand back and showed Kakashi with a normal black colored eye and Naruto holding a sphere with the Sharingan sitting in it before Naruto crushed it and stood. What did you do to me? Kakashi asked, and Naruto snorted. I did what my father asked. You see, he had me agree that if you ever used Chidori or Raikiri on me, that I was to take away what allowed you to use it effectively, your Sharingan. He stated, shocking everyone, as it was unheard of for a person to actually and literally rip a bloodline out of someone. Now you have no access to it or any of its powers, since you just don't have it anymore. He stated, and Kakashi saw red and launched at Naruto with a kunai that Naruto ducked and dropped onto his hands before kicking Kakashi directly on the knees with an audible crunch echoing out, and Kakashi screaming in pain as his knees were just shattered to pieces. Naruto got up and then slammed his foot down on both Kakashi's ankles, making him scream more before doing the same to his hands and fingers. Naruto then grabbed Kakashi by the throat, lifted him clear off the ground, and held him there. That was what I promised my mother. If you ever used one of those attacks on me, you'll be lucky to ever walk again, and you can forget about ever making hand signs. Naruto stated, making many become shocked. So basically, I just ended your career as a shinobi. He stated before throwing Kakashi into the recovery area where the other medics began working on him. Naruto popped his neck as he looked at the varying degrees of fear, understanding, anger, shock, anticipation, and respect on everyone's faces. Well, now that that is out of the way, anyone else want to try their hand at fighting me? He asked, and he got his answer by feeling three people take up positions behind him: Yuga Yuzuki, Gekko Heiate, and Ganma Shiranui. Come to see if I live up to my mother? He asked without turning, as the one Umbu and two Jonin looked at him in surprise. I do know everything about my mother and father, so it isn't that surprising that I know who their teams were when they were senseis. He stated as he turned and looked at them, seeing they hadn't changed much, though Heiate looked a bit healthier than he did at the prelims of the Chunin exams, though he could tell that he was still hurting from the scar across his chest, since Naruto had actually found and got Heiate to safety after Baki had used his wind sword on him. But Heiate was unconscious until a month after the finals, which was why they couldn't stop the invasion from occurring, as they didn't know about it. The three said nothing as they each drew their katanas, and Naruto withdrew Kubikiribocho and held it at his side as he had done with Tenten, and smirked as he waved at them to come at him. which they obliged as they came at him from different angles, and Naruto smirked as they came down with an overhead swing, and he shocked everyone yet again. He bent backwards and put his blade right at the intersection that their swords met at and stopped all three. Naruto smirked before he pushed off, throwing them off balance before he flipped the blade and swung around, slamming the blunt end into all three, sending them crashing away while he stood again and twirled his blade in a figure 8. Naruto then moved and put his blade to Hay-8 as he knew his ribs were bruised, cracked, and broken, and it would be bad if he tried anything. Hay-8 felt the blade and nodded before Naruto moved and knocked Ganma's sword away and held his at Ganma's throat, making him nod before he turned to see Yugo up and at the ready. Naruto moved to stand before her when she did a lunge, and he sidestepped and spun his blade, smacking hers aside and forcing her off balance before he grabbed her outstretched arm and pulled her against his chest with her blade to her throat. "You overextended yourself, Yugo-chan," he stated into her ear as he took a deep breath, inhaling her scent, making her shiver and blush. "You also made the mistake of using the style my mother taught you instead of using a style I may not know. Such a disadvantage can never be done by me, since I know plenty of sword styles that you and everyone in this village do not," he stated with his breath tickling her neck, making her blush a bit more, and she lowered her eyes a bit as she got a deeper blush. "Can you teach me?" she asked in a voice above a whisper, and Naruto raised an eyebrow before he smiled. "Of course, but I warn you I might be a bit biased and or distracted since my mother thought you would make a good wife for me," he stated, and Yugo blushed brightly and he chuckled. "You know, I still need you to say you surrender before I can let you go. Not that I mind being this close to you, mind you," he stated, and she blushed more since she could feel his weapons, and one item that could be classified as a weapon depending on your point of view, along with his muscles against her, and she nodded before he released her and kissed her hand before she walked off. Everyone was in shock and awe as they watched Naruto dismantle every opponent that he faced without taking a hit. However, one Tsume Izuka and her daughter, Hana, noticed that Tsume's partner Kuramaru seemed shaken by Naruto. "You alright, Kuramaru?" Tsume asked, and the wolf seemed to not register the question for a time before he spoke. "That man, he's a real alpha and has a strong connection to the wolves and 2 other animals. I'll have to talk with him later," he stated, and Tsume and Hana widened their eyes in shock, with Tsume also doing so because she had an idea on what he wanted to see Naruto about. Tsume and Hana quickly returned their attention to the field, not wanting to miss anything Naruto did. Naruto looked as Yujido jumped down, and he looked at her with curiosity. "Your demon won't help you in this fight," he warned her, and she frowned with a shrug as she took a kunai out and threw it with him, tilting his head to the side, letting it pass him harmlessly just before a stream of fire came at him. Naruto rolled his eyes. "Water style, raging torrent," he stated, shocking people as water came from the very air and slammed into the fire, putting it out and making the field covered in steam. Yujido frowned as she tried to find him in the fog along with everyone else before a voice rang out. "Ice style, howling wolves." They heard Naruto say, shocking them further as ice style was believed to be a bloodline that even the Sharingan couldn't copy. They broke from their thoughts as several wolf howls were heard before Yujito had to dodge as a wolf the size of a pony and made of ice launched out of the fog before 9 more came out and surrounded Yujito. Yujido frowned before she flared her demon's chakra, sending out a wave of heat that melted the wolves. She turned towards Naruto to see him standing there with the fog gone and waiting for her patiently. He then looked to her before he took a deep breath and blew out a large dragon made of fire, shocking people again since he hadn't called the jutsu name nor had he made hand signs, and he already showed that he had a water affinity to use the water in the air like he did. Yujito was also in shock since she was a bit of a fire jutsu expert and she had never seen a fully formed dragon made of fire before, since all the other dragon's jutsu were just a head followed by a stream depending on how much chakra the person pumped into it. She broke from her shock in time to dodge, and it slammed into the arena wall, creating stress cracks out to 10 feet, and there was a large crater where the dragon hit, further shocking everyone watching. However, Yujito broke from her shock as she was grabbed and slammed to the ground and was able to stare into a large swirling blue sphere that was just barely above her face. "You lose, Yujito-chan," he stated, making her blush as he straddled her, and the fact he apparently knew her name before she nodded, and he got off her with the Rasengan disappearing before he helped her up and kissed her hand, making her blush before she left, and Naruto sensed a new opponent come down. He turned to see Kuratsuchi, the granddaughter of the Tsuchikage, and saw that Inoki, the Tsuchikage, was not happy she had jumped down there, and Naruto looked up at him and he sweated slightly. "Relax, she's done nothing to warrant me killing her," he stated, and Inoki, despite his better judgment and fears, actually gave a sigh of relief as Naruto turned back to Kuratsuchi. In the stands, the Konoha 11 and their senseis, minus Sakura and Kakashi, were all watching as Naruto wasn't breaking a sweat. "Hey Shika, do you think we would have stood a chance if we had all fought Naruto at once?" Choji asked, and the others were curious as well as Shikamaru took a drag from a cigarette since he picked the habit up from Asuma and blew the smoke out. "Troublesome, I doubt it because he's barely been working to defeat us individually, and then there is the fact that we all only know how to fight together in our own teams, so we would end up tripping each other up as we tried to fight him," he stated as they went from shock to understanding since they had rarely worked together, so they wouldn't be in sync with each other that well. He's also going to beat that girl down there regardless of how strong she is, Shikamaru stated, and they all raised their eyebrows in surprise except for Shino and Hinata as everyone turned back to watching the fight. Kuratsuchi wasted no time and immediately went through Seal's, Earth-style, spiked graveyard. She called as she slammed her hands on the ground and human-sized spike shot up from everywhere heading towards Naruto, who simply held his hand up. "Lightning-style, thunder cannon," he stated, and lightning lit up his entire arm before condensing on his palm in a ball before it launched out and tore through the spikes, and Kuratsuchi just barely managed to dodge before she heard him speak again. "Lava-style, lava bullets," Naruto stated as he quickly began spitting high-speed bullets of lava at her, making her dodge rapidly while both her and everyone else was shocked that he could use both lava and ice release. As Kuratsuchi got back up, she was sent sailing into the wall after a call of, "Wind-style, great breakthrough." Kuratsuchi slumped down only to find someone holding her up with a blade to her throat and saw Naruto there, and she started to get lost in his eyes before he spoke. "I think it's time you gave up or I'll have to knock you out," he stated, and she nodded and, like with all the other females but Sakura and Ino, he kissed her hand making her blush before he moved back to his starting position while she went back to the viewing area. Naruto turned as 3 Kyumo genin jumped down next, and he gazed over them all and knew fully well they were above genin and were likely unknowingly taking a page from Kabuto's book. "May I have the names of my current opponents and why you wish to face me?" he asked as he turned to face them, and they all took a katana or ninjato out. The middle one, a particularly voluptuous blonde that would probably rival Tsunade for breast size in a few years, spoke first. "My name is Samui, you seem like a cool guy and I want to test my own sword skills against you," she stated. Then a dark-skinned redhead, whom wasn't as stacked as Samui but appeared to have a very nice ass, and appeared to be full of spunk and determination, decided to go next. "I'm Karui. You have good skills with a blade, and not many outside of Kiri can say that, and there is the fact that you have to be somewhat decent as a fighter to warrant Zabuza Momochi's blessing in using his blade," she stated, and Naruto looked to the last one, a guy that had a lollipop in his mouth and seemed nervous. "I'm Omoi, though I probably shouldn't have told you that since that might mean that you're gonna hunt me down and kill me or kidnap me for information. However, it could mean that I just gave you the idea and now I just endangered myself," he stated before Karui got a tick mark and smacked him upside the head. "Sorry, anyway, I'm doing this just to back up my teammates," he stated, and Naruto nodded, though one could see he was analyzing them if one looked closely. "A pleasure, though it is a bit of a disappointment that Kyumo is not allies with Konoha, since you three must have some kind of potential to be trained by the Raikage brother, and a Jinchuriki at that," he stated, surprising them and the others in the area as he smirked. "It wasn't that hard. Both the Raikage and his brother got a bit worried when you came down with bees being a teacher's worry, and there is the fact that I can still sense demonic energy even if I don't have Kyuubi inside me any longer. As for knowing he is A's brother, well, you'd be surprised what one can learn with a decent spy network," Naruto stated with a smirk as he popped his neck. "It really is a shame that Kyumo and Konoha aren't allies, since it would be interesting to teach you three to wield a blade, since I can tell from B's stance that he doesn't use a conventional method, meaning your three didn't learn the normal way and part of what you learned was improvised," he stated, surprising them even more, and he smirked wider as he held his blade out. "I guess you could consider this a free lesson or two," Naruto stated as he beckoned them to come at him, and they frowned before the three launched at him and launched their attacks at him, but he parried every one of them while delivering a slap to the ass with his sword to Samui and Karui and a palm thrust to Omoi's gut. The women, both on the field and off, blushed, and Omoi shook the hit off before Karui came at him and with a fire in her eyes. Naruto dodged her attack and caught her before bending her backwards with his blade at her throat. "It's not about anger, it's about peace," he stated with her blushing at the proximity and the predatory look in his eyes before he tossed her away and then dodged Omoi's strike and kicked him in the back of the knees, forcing him to them as Naruto placed his blade at his throat. "It's not about power, it's about grace," he stated before kicking him forward and parried Samui's attack before catching her and pinning her large chest to his with his blade at her chin. "It's not about knowing your enemy, it's about knowing yourself." he stated, and she blushed at her breasts being squished and how close she was to the admittedly handsome man in front of her before he smiled and pushed her back towards her teammates. Naruto stared at them as they got up and got ready to go at him again as he twirled his sword and pointed it towards them. A sword by itself rules nothing. It only comes alive in skilled hands. He stated before he moved to a tree and cut a branch off and shaved the excess foliage off before standing before them again with the branch in hand and his sword sealed again. Sharpness is a state of mind. He stated before he launched at them and swung the branch, knocking their swords out of the way and smacking them on the arms and legs and blocking strikes before striking them again as they backed up and saw that his branch didn't have a scratch on it. Real sharpness comes without effort. He stated as he looked over the three before they charged again and he slapped Karui on her torso. No growth without assistance. He stated before he leaned back to dodge a strike and slapped Omoi over the head and then his back. No action without reaction. He then ducked an attack from Samui and put the branch at her throat. No desire without restraint. He stated before he pushed her back and then spun, slapping both Omoi and Karui into her. Now give yourself up and find yourself again. He stated as they fell over before standing again and looked at him wondering how he was doing this, and he smirked. You use your mind far too much. He stated, making everyone, but the samurai present and one in particular that had the mark of general, frown in confusion. What the hell does that mean? Karui asked as she had never heard that before, and Naruto smirked. You focus your mind on your sword, on your allies, on the crowd, on me, on my weapons. You use your mind too much. You need to clear your mind. He stated before he was gone and the three felt smacks to the back of their legs before their blades were brought to their throats. You are so unfocused you can't see what needs to be seen until it is too late. He stated before he looked around the wall and frowned. You three need to give up now, I have some new arrivals to handle. He stated with an edge to his voice, and the three quickly nodded before Naruto moved their blades and helped them stand before he patted Omoi on the back and kissed Samui and Karui's hands, making the latter two blush as they walked away, and Naruto tossed the branch at the wall where it impaled something and a figure fell out revealing a root umbu, and Naruto looked over the walls. I do believe I stated that if you enter this field then you are my opponent, so you may as well show yourselves. Since you suck at hiding, especially against my eyes. He stated before over 50 root umbu came and surrounded him with their weapons drawn, and he smirked before he frowned. Tsunade, if you or Jiraiya jump down here then I will fight you too. I don't need help to fight this small number. He warned and stated as Tsunade was about to jump down with Jiraiya before they stopped, and Edie held Haku back since she knew Naruto was not in any kind of danger. Naruto rolled his shoulders. He only sent 50? That's just insulting to me. He stated before he took a thinking pose. When was the last time I only faced around 50 supposedly trained professionals all at once? He asked himself absent-mindedly as he tapped his head, thinking before he snapped his fingers. It was with Connor when we attacked the British fort at New York. Naruto stated, making many frown in confusion before he looked to the root umbu. So, does he want me captured or killed? Not like I am any use to him anymore, since I'm no longer the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, so I'm no longer a weapon he can mold to his liking. The root umbu paused a moment before the one with captain rank spoke. Regardless, you will be detained for questioning and study. He stated, and Naruto chuckled darkly as the air seemed to get colder and the root umbu felt like something was stalking them. I don't think my friends would allow that. He stated and saw the root captain look to the stands, and Naruto shook his head with a predatory smirk. I don't mean them. He stated before 5 of the root umbu were suddenly knocked down while the growls and howls of wolves were heard before they appeared in a ghostly fashion, and the 5 were mauled badly, with Naruto maintaining his smirk. I meant them. He stated as the root charged him, and Naruto smirked before he moved and caught one root's arm and twisted it so he stabbed himself before he grabbed the corpse and threw it into another before he twisted and grabbed another's neck and snapped it. Naruto then bent backwards and broke another's arm before taking the root's sword and stabbed him through the heart and threw it into another before he threw a set of knives into 10 of the root, killing them. 20 down. Are you sure you're supposed to be elites? He asked, sensing anger and shock from Danzo, Himura, and Kohara, while the other root were busy switching their attention between him and the empty air around him since they didn't know where those strange wolves were at. Naruto smirked as he pulled out a scroll and unrolled it a little before swiping his finger against it and took hold of a halberd came out that was easily a good 6 inches taller than Naruto and had a 4-inch spike on the top, a 5-inch axe head, and a 6-inch curved hook/spike on the back. Naruto grinned at them before he vanished, and an eagle cry was heard before a ghostly eagle appeared before turning into Naruto, who was stabbing one of the ones in the back right before he spun and decapitated 3 more and slammed the axe head down on another. Naruto then pulled his arm back and sent the halberd through the air before it pierced and went through 2 root and stopped in a third before Naruto grabbed his revolvers, drew them, and fired. Everyone was shocked and scared at the loud bang that echoed out after the first shot, making 1 root drop dead with a fist-sized hole in his chest before Naruto followed up with another 11 bangs and 11 more root dropped dead. Naruto holstered his revolvers before turning and seeing the last 5 root before they too were tackled to the ground, mauled by the wolves. Naruto then sighed as he sensed more root and even some of the Jonin and Chunin fools of the village, and sealed his halberd before pulling out Kubikirabocho as more root came out, and Naruto ran at them before jumping the first and cut the second that jumped to meet him in half before he landed and spun, cutting through 3. He ducked a swing before cutting up another, spun, and then ran another through before he blocked a strike and cut another's throat. Naruto then turned and cut another in their head before twisting and delivered a slash to another's chest before bisecting another. Naruto then slammed his blade point first into a root sword, making the sword shatter and the hilt to slam into the chest, killing them before he twisted and slammed the hilt of his blade into an face, caving it in before he jumped and impaled a Jonin that jumped at him and brought him down on a Chunin, impaling him too before he took his blade and flung the top corpse into another and heard the satisfying crack of necks, meaning they were both dead before Naruto spun and cut down another that came at him. As more came at Naruto, he grinned slightly as he pulled out his crossbow and fired it, making it whistle past and strike a root in the back before it exploded, and he then holstered the crossbow. Naruto then let the blade grow long as he swung it around and cut through 10 more enemies before he let it retract and took one of his revolvers and began shooting any incoming shinobi while still cutting down any that got close before he smacked one upside the head with his revolver and shot them in the back before he holstered the revolver and moved slightly to face more of his enemies. One came at him and he parried the blade before he did a figure 8 movement, cutting a large X on his chest before he parried another attack and shoved his blade through another's throat and spun it before catching the handle and pulled it out with the head now being attached to the body backwards. Naruto then kicked one leg out from another and brought his sword down through his left shoulder to the middle of his torso before dragging it out. Naruto then ducked and swiped another's legs out from under him with the legs barely holding onto the body before he parried a strike and stabbed one in the neck with his left hidden blade before he maneuvered him towards another and fired his hidden pistol, killing the 2 before he ducked again and came up stabbing through another before pulling the blade straight out and twirled it, flicking the blood off. Naruto then turned and caught the wrist of a Chunin coming at him with a kunai and planted the kunai into his throat before taking the kunai and threw it into another Naruto then dodged again and twisted his right wrist, making a blade launch out and pierce the skull, killing the individual before he twisted and 2 darts launched out of his gauntlets, making the 2 they hit pause and grabbed their heads as they roared out before they began striking at their allies with increased strength and ferocity, while Naruto just dodged and killed more and furthered it when he pulled out 3 items and threw them to the middle of the attacking force, creating large explosions that took out a dozen of them each at least. Outside the arena, everyone was in shock, horror, and awe as Naruto dismantled the small army that came to fight him and was doing it with grace and effectiveness of a true veteran and master fighter. The women, especially Tenten, Yugo, Samui, and Karui, could only look on in awe and slight arousal as they witnessed just how much of a gap in skill Naruto had over them and just how helpless they were against him. The awe, but no arousal thankfully, could be said for the males as well, and Tsunade could tell why he said he specialized in army killing. She had assumed it was due to him fully using shadow clones, but now she was seeing him dismantle over a battalion of soldiers by himself, if with a bit of help from those strange animals of his, and showed no signs of fatigue or tiredness. It was as if he had been doing this for decades, and it was as natural as breathing to him. Danzo, Koharu, Himura, and several of the other idiots were all in shock, surprise, anger, and fear as they saw Naruto dismantle the so-called elite that were root and was doing so very easily and in front of the entire village and several foreign dignitaries. The allies of Naruto that weren't among those who fought or were women were watching with pride, admiration, or awe as he brought down enemy after enemy with little to no effort on his part. They all broke from their thoughts as Naruto sealed his sword away and held his arms open in invitation to the few remaining root shinobi. One came at Naruto and he dodged before grabbing the offending arm and breaking it before throwing the sword he was holding into another root before Naruto slammed him to the ground and kicked him, creating a large crater under him before Naruto rolled and grabbed a blade from another root and cut open his torso, making his guts and blood flow out. Naruto then parried the next attacker, ran the blade through his chest before twisting and taking the blade from the one he just killed and double-sliced another across the throat and twisting to cut another's legs out and cut his head off before he turned to the last and dropped the blades as he walked forward. The root umbu couldn't move before he finally struck at Naruto, and Naruto dodged and slammed his hand into the umbu's throat, crushing it and making the umbu fall dead. Naruto straightened his cloak and looked over the field, seeing that there were easily 100 corpses scattered across the field, and he flicked his hidden blades, cleaning them before recalled his knives and anything he used personally so no one could use it without his permission, and popped his neck before turning to the crowd. Naruto looked over the stunned and awed crowd. "Anyone else?" Naruto asked as he looked over the various people, seeing none willing to face him now. "Then let this be a lesson to you fools who believe I am Kyuubi. Cross me and you will die, and this goes for those who wish to try anything in this village so long as I am under contract, whether that is to take someone visiting here or to take someone from here," he stated before he spread his arms out. "Here in death the lesson," he stated before he gave a bow like a performer would, and then turned and walked towards the exit of the stadium before the majority of his classmates began cheering for him, with a few daimyos and kages joining in along with the samurai. Naruto was quickly joined by his 3 girls, and they followed him into the waiting area, where he promptly placed his forehead against Tsunami's while cupping Haku and Eevee's cheeks. "I'm sorry you had to see that," he stated, and they smiled before kissing him, with Tsunami being on the lips and Eevee and Haku being on the cheek. "It's alright, Naruto-kun, we know you had no choice and we understand it," she stated, and he nodded before giving them a kiss to the forehead, and they began heading back to the Namikaze estates, as Naruto already knew he had to attend the meeting that would be happening within an hour. However, as they walked, Naruto knew they were being followed and had to suppress a smirk since he knew who it was. "Still not good enough, Kono," he stated before Konohamaru, Udon, and Moegi, who was sporting a healthy blush, appeared before them. Naruto smirked before he had the girls back up, and he spread his arms before the 3 tackled him in a hug, and he slid back slightly while chuckling. "It's good to see you 3 too, but I gotta get these 3 back to the Namikaze estates and then attend a meeting, so I can't catch up right now, but I promise we will when I can," he stated as he ruffled Konohamaru and Udon's hair before looking to Moegi and seeing her blush before he smiled, and she blushed more. "You've gotten even cuter, Moegi-chan," he stated, making her imitate a tomato, with Naruto's girls giggling and Konohamaru and Udon smirking at their Imuto, knowing full well she had a massive crush on Naruto. Naruto said goodbye to them and got back to the Namikaze estates, where he promptly settled down before he gave Haku and Eevee instructions and told Eevee to start training Tsunami in how to use a knife so she wouldn't be helpless if she had to fight. Naruto had then asked them not to look at the books in his study, or at least not to do it yet, which they agreed to since he had a right to his privacy, before he kissed them and then left for the tower. Council room. "Hokage-sama, this is outrageous. That demon should have never been allowed back in the village," stated one civilian before the table in front of him exploded and he had a katana at his throat. The table was done via Tsunade, while the katana was courtesy of the general that watched Naruto and was named Mifune, and he was here at the asking of the fire daimyo, since Mifune had actually faced Kushina before and had admired her drive and personality, and now had just as much or even greater respect for her son since he knew the way of the samurai. "Say one more word about him being a demon and I will kill you myself," Tsunade growled, with the councilman nodding slightly before Mifune retook his seat as he, the spring daimyo, Kazekage, and the waterfall Kage were allowed to be there for the proceedings. "Regardless of your personal feelings about the boy, he must be punished for killing and harming our shinobi, and it must be costly," Danzo stated, with the 2 elders and most of the civilians nodding while the rest sighed in exasperation. "Were you not paying attention, Danzo?" Tsunade asked, making him frown. Naruto clearly stated that the daimyos and I signed the rules stating he was free to do as he pleased if someone challenged him, so you can't touch him, unless you want me to kill you right now for treason against myself and the fire daimyo, she stated, making Danzo grit his teeth and the others to be shocked since they thought Naruto was bluffing about that. "Now, once Naruto gets here we can begin the meeting since he will be aiding Konoha now," she stated, shocking them all before the idiots. The elders and most of the civilians began shouting their protests before the sound of a blade being drawn out was heard and people saw Mifune getting very agitated. "At the very least you should make the brat train an army for us so we can make up for what he cost us and then get ready to take on anyone that tries to threaten us," Danzo stated, with many nodding before the sound of a blade scraping against something and laughter entered the room. "Such foolish people there are in here, but I guess since Danzo is hurt I killed so many of his little pets he would want me to train some people so he could take them and learn my secrets." Naruto's voice echoed out, making people tense. Even Hayashi did after he activated his eyes and found he couldn't find Naruto. Everyone then noticed Danzo being very stiff with his head tilted back before Naruto appeared out of thin air with a blade coming from his wrist being just under Danzo's chin. "You pride yourself on surviving 2 wars, but that is nothing compared to me. I have mastered the absolute basics of the shinobi while combining it with that of the samurai, monk, warrior, and much more, and I could have killed you at any time since I've been in here since you all came in," Naruto stated as his blade drew a thin line of blood from Danzo. "I didn't even sense him," thought everyone with said capability as Naruto withdrew his blade and noticed the various clan heirs were there as well, most likely to learn their responsibilities for when they were older, and stood in front of them all. "As for me training people, I probably will since I have 2 apprentices already, but I will be choosing who learns from me," he stated with the idiots fuming. "And before you even think of trying to order me, I will remind you that as I am clan head of the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans, you cannot interfere with clan affairs, and only those that I accept as either allies of my clan or into my clan will be allowed to learn my arts," he stated with many gawking at him and bristling in anger. "Nice try, boy, but so long as we of the council have a say in the matter, you will never be a clan head," Himura stated, and the other idiots nodded, making Naruto smirk. "Then I suppose it is fortunate that you don't get say," he stated, making them frown in confusion as Naruto produced copies of the contract and handed them to every individual there except Tsunade and the fire daimyo. "What you have there is a copy of the contract created between myself, Tsunade-sama, and Lord Nobunaga, with both of their seals of approval on it, with each of the 3 of us having a copy of it," he stated as people began gawking, sweating, and seething as they saw the different conditions. "So you see, not only do several of you idiots owe me a substantial amount of money, but you get no say in me being clan head, in what work I do, trying to find out where I have been or what I was doing. You can't attack me without repercussions, you can't try to harm anyone under my protection without ramifications, or anything else concerning me even if a new Hokage is chosen," Naruto stated, and Tsunade nodded. "And since it has both the fire daimyo and my seal of approval on it, you can't revoke it unless you get a unanimous vote and the Hokage and fire daimyo approve of it," she stated with a smirk, loving to watch the fools squirm in their seats, having no power or authority to do anything. Naruto then popped neck audibly. "If that is all, I'd like my rank so I can go home and continue unpacking from my time away," he stated, and Tsunade nodded before she turned to the fire daimyo and he stood. "Naruto, from what I saw in that arena today, the fact that you killed 2S ranked missing means single-handedly, if with a bit of help from a student of yours, and the fact I know your parents could never have a weak child, I see no reason not to promote you to a rank rarely given, a guardian Umbu. This is a rank very rarely given as it signifies you are of substantial skill and power, that you can take S-rank missions by yourself and do the most important missions for both the village and fire country. This comes with Sannin level traveling rights, the first choice of any mission that requires a true level of skill and finesse to complete, and sole authority over you being reserved for myself and the Hokage, but it is also in your power to step down from this position at your own discretion and cannot be forced back into active duty and can only return under your own volition," he decreed, shocking everyone but Naruto, and he bowed to him with his hands out to his sides. "I thank you, your highness, for this honor, and I will ensure to bring nothing but honor and pride to it," Naruto stated with the daimyo nodding while the idiots were all grinding their teeth. "Daimyo-sama, he showed some skill, yes, but he can't possibly be able to back up the title with the power needed, since he clearly showed a great deal of his skills in the arena today." Koharu tried with a few, actually thinking she had a point, before Naruto started chuckling. "You think that was me actually fighting? That was a warm-up for me," he stated, shocking many of them. "I train against several hundred clones every day to keep my skills and abilities up to par or to push them even further, and I have several abilities that I have not even shown yet in addition to my vast array of jutsu," he stated, shocking them and making many recall that he used 2 believed to be bloodline jutsu. "Naruto-san, may I inquire as to how you were able to use ice and lava techniques?" Shino asked, and Naruto gazed at him for a moment before shrugging. "I trained in them, it took a few years, but when you count in the fact I can use hundreds if not thousands of shadow clones without even getting winded, it isn't that surprising since I could do so daily," he stated, and already could sense the wheels turning in Danzo's head. "Most fortuitous indeed. Then you can begin training the rest of our forces in how to do that at once, since you possibly have the wood style that Senju were famous for, which begs the question if the first ever had a bloodline to begin with, and we can tame any Biju or Jinchuriki that we come across," Danzo stated, and Naruto rolled his eyes. Let me think about it, no," he stated, making many sputter in rage and disbelief, and Naruto rolled his eyes again. "You people really need to retire if your memory is this bad, but let me spell it out for you. You can't order me to do jack shit. I only work 4. The Fire Daimyo and the Hokage. Naruto stated slowly and mockingly, making the idiots even more infuriated. And even if I were to try and train people, I'm the only one that can make that many shadow clones and not pass out or die, so I could weaken the village more by having several try to learn it, but it wouldn't end well. He stated, making Danzo frown, since it was true that Naruto was probably the only one alive that could make that many clones and still be ready to do more. Also, I'd be willing to bet that the Senju bloodline isn't what style, it's the ability to easily combine the two elements into one of the bloodline styles, and for the first it was wood since he had earth and water, but his brother only had water, which is why his water affinity was so strong, since his bloodline was compensating. Naruto stated, and many blinked in astonishment since they hadn't considered that before, and Naruto then rolled his neck and moved to leave. Well, I'll go wait in your office, Tsunade-sama, since I am sure there is a few things to iron out. He stated, and she nodded before dismissing the meeting and left to go to her office, with the fire daimyo and the guests retiring since they had nothing else to do at the moment. When Tsunade entered her office, she saw Naruto standing at the window overlooking the village. You know, I always loved this view. Naruto stated absent-mindedly as he gazed out before turning to Tsunade, who seemed to be suppressing her urges, and he smiled before he opened his arms, and she was at him in an instant, hugging him, and he chuckled as he returned the hug. It's alright, Tsunade, I'm real. He stated as she nodded into his chest with tears in her eyes before a knock at the door made her have to let him go, and she took her seat before Shizen came in. Tsunade-sama, I have the few forms you needed to finalize Naruto-kun being a guardian umbu. Shizen stated as she came in and smiled at Naruto, who returned the smile, before she set a few papers on the desk. Thank you, Shizun, but don't leave. After Naruto fills out a few forms, I'll need you to give him a physical just to update the logs. Tsunade stated, and Shizen nodded while Naruto sighed slightly. Tsunade, is there a way that someone else could do it? He asked, and Tsunade frowned. It's not so much that I don't think Shizen can do it, but it would probably be better if she didn't. He stated, and they were confused and concerned before he sighed and raised his hand before pointing to his ring finger, which had a scar over it. Please, trust me. He stated, and they widened their eyes before Tsunade nodded. Shizun, please have one of the more open-minded doctors that Lord Nobunaga picked to replace some of the hospital staff perform the examination. She ordered, and Shizen nodded, knowing her lady would want a copy afterwards, and left the room before Naruto made a few clones and each took a paper and read over them thoroughly to ensure none of Danzo's people tried to put anything inside that wasn't agreed upon before he nodded, and the clones each signed a page before putting them back in order and popping. Alright, that does it for the paperwork. Now you just need the physical and we will be set. She stated, and he nodded before he left and headed for the hospital, knowing he would be back tonight as Tsunade would be on the verge of breaking down after reading his medical history. 4 hours later. True to his concerns, when he came back into the office via an open window, Tsunade was there sobbing as she read the report stating his broken bones, scars, tortures, and everything else he had endured while away, and knew it was breaking her heart. Tsunade stiffened as she felt strong arms wrap around her before the voice of the man she cared about entered her ears. See why I didn't want Shizun to do it? She would have broken down before we got halfway through. He stated before she eeped as he picked her up and took her to the couch and sat her down on his lap with her clutching to him as she cried into him, and he held her and stroked her hair as he whispered sweet things into her ear. After a few minutes, she settled down and Naruto smiled as he wiped her tears away, and she found herself blushing. You know, I had another reason for coming here. I had a debt to pay to you. He stated, and she frowned while he smiled. I never noticed your feelings before, so here is the principal. He stated as he kissed her forehead right on her jewel. Here is the interest. He stated as he kissed her nose, making her giggle, and here is the down payment. He stated before he kissed her on the lips, and she returned it while wrapping her arms around his neck as he held her to him, and his tongue began playing with hers, with her moaning as she was finally kissing the man she had wanted for years. After a minute or so, they had to pull apart for air. Would you like to go out with me, Tsunade-chan? He asked, and she blushed and had a flash of happiness in her eyes before she looked down with a frown on her face. Do you really want to go out with an old woman like me when there are women younger that would love to be you, and would it work with me being older than you? She asked, and then whipped her head up as he started chuckling, and she frowned. What? She stated with a frown, but said frown vanished when he gave her a light kiss. If anyone is the cradle robber here, Tsunade, it's me. He stated, making her frown in confusion, and he chuckled before kissing her forehead again. I'll explain it another time, but for now you need to get some sleep since I need to request some time away for a little while. but I'll stay until after the Chunin exams to ensure nothing happens during it," he stated, and she frowned as she just got him back and didn't want him to leave so soon. "Can I at least ask why?" she asked, and he smiled before kissing her cheek, making her smile slightly since she liked getting the affection. "I'm going recruiting," he stated, and she widened her eyes, and he placed his finger over her lips. "I'm going regardless, but I'll let you pick 2 or 3 people to go with me if you are that worried about it, but my girls will be staying in the compound and will need you or Shizen to get them things if they need anything, and we can talk later after I get back," he stated, and she reluctantly nodded, and he smiled before giving her a loving kiss, and she happily returned it before he pulled back and stood with her, putting her feet down again. "I promise we'll talk and go on a date after I come back, but for now you need to get some rest," he stated before giving her another light kiss, and she nodded before kissing his cheek, and he smiled before kissing her hand and left while giving her a wink, making her blush and smile. "He's such a charmer," she stated, while unknowingly a certain purple-haired Umbu that decided to watch over her lady for the night thought the same thing and wondered if she could get permission to go with him on his trip. Chapter 5, Getting Ready. Namake's Estates, day after Chapter 4. Naruto groaned as he woke up before finding he didn't have his girls next to him, but he did feel a weight on the bed and tried to sit up before he was pushed back down. "You lie there, Naruto-kun," Tsunami purred as he felt 3 hands rubbing his groin appreciatively. "We know you'll be leaving later today, but before you do we want a taste of what you have to offer," Haku continued as he felt his pants and boxers slowly being worked down. "We've waited years for a chance at happiness and pleasure, and we aren't going to wait longer," Eevee stated as his little Naruto was freed. Line start. Naruto looked down to see Haku in her ice blue bra and panties that hugged her CCD cup tits that were firm but still soft, toned legs, and her round-toned ass. Tsunami was in a red bra and thong that showed off her mature body, with her DD cup tits having a bit of sag, but her ass made up for it with its plumpness and the jiggle factor as she moved with her white hips. And then Eevee showed off her well-trained body with D cups, a firm tight ass that was larger than Haku's but smaller than Tsunami's, and slightly white hips. All in all, it was definitely a sight that got Naruto hard. Tsunami and Haku both blushed at the sight of his cock, while Eevee licked her lips since he was at least 9 inches long and at least 3 inches thick, while his balls were each golf ball sized. Naruto smirked since the looks were the same he'd seen when he was thanked/rewarded by the courtesans and gypsies over the centuries, and he also remembered the very relaxing time he had when he was in Italy and Teodora, Paula, and Rosa had treated him for a job well done after Ezio and he went into the Vatican and met Minerva after Rodrigo was beaten up. Naruto could honestly say that he had felt very refreshed after that meeting, and the 3 seemed to be quite satisfied and were asleep when Naruto had to leave half a day later and weren't opposed to more visits from him when he had more business in Venice or Florence. One time he had an even bigger surprise when he got a night with not only Teodora, Paula, and Rosa, but Maria and Claudia Auditore as well, and it was certainly memorable for all parties involved, though he couldn't go to Claudia's brothel in Rome for business since all her girls wanted to jump him afterwards, and thankfully Ezio wasn't going to try and skin his hide since he knew he wasn't using them for his own gains. Naruto shook those thoughts away and smirked. "So are you 3 going to be able to share? Because the rest of my body doesn't have to be idle while you get your tastes," he stated with a gleam in his eyes that made them shudder before the 3 nodded to him and they removed their respective panties, and Tsunami took a position straddling his torso with her pussy over his head while Eevee was on his left and Haku on his right with their asses right next to Tsunami's. Naruto smirked seeing the 3 pink clean-shaven pussies before him and began kneading Eevee and Haku's asses, making them moan softly while he gently blew on Tsunami's pussy, making her shudder. "Don't tease us, Naruto-kun," Tsunami moaned before she leaned forward and licked the head of his cock, getting a groan from him, while Haku and Eevee blushed at the sight of her doing that before she pulled back. "Come on, you 2, he'll do more once we give him some motivation," Tsunami stated as she began licking the head more and more, and Haku leaned in and began licking her side of the shaft while Eevee went low and began licking near his balls. Naruto groaned before he moved his hands and began to rub Eevee and Haku's pussies softly with his thumbs and gave Tsunami a slow lick, making all 3 moan while all 3 were feeling something new. For Haku, this was the first time she was being touched. Eevee, it was the first time someone other than herself was touching her there, and for Tsunami it was the first time someone had licked her there. Eevee then whimpered, knowing he was more skilled than he was showing since she had heard how he had helped train courtesans. "Naruto, please do more, I want to feel everything you can give me," she begged as she stopped licking before she began sucking along the side of his cock. Haku nodded. "Yes, Naruto-kun, give us more," she begged as she went to his balls and began sucking on them, causing Naruto to groan. Naruto smirked before he pushed a finger into Haku and Eevee, making them moan before his thumbs began stroking their clits, earning louder moans, while he began licking Tsunami faster and pressed his tongue against her clit as he did. All three moaned louder as he added a finger to Haku and Eevee and pushed his tongue into Tsunami, and the three reciprocated by licking and sucking more as Tsunami maneuvered his cock down so she could lick his balls with Eevee and Haku. Tsunami then gasped as he moved his tongue to her ass, and Eevee and Haku did as well since he pushed a finger into their asses as well and began pump his fingers. The three moaned more as he sped up with two fingers in Haku and Eevee's pussies and asses and his thumb flicking their clits, and Naruto alternating licking and tongue fucking Tsunami's ass and pussy. Tsunami moaned the loudest before she took his cock and began sucking it greedily as she bobbed her head, while Haku and Eevee both took one of his balls into their mouths and sucked and licked it, making Naruto groan into Tsunami's body, causing her to moan around his cock. It only took a few minutes before Naruto pulled back. "I'm gonna come soon, girls. I want all three of you licking the tip so I can come all three of you," he ordered as he went back to licking, and the three happily complied and began licking the head while slightly embarrassed at being so close to the other two and their tongues licking each other. Naturally, Naruto sped up his own ministrations and was actively fingering Haku and Eevee rapidly while sucking and licking Tsunami's pussy and clit, making them moan more and more until they screamed in pleasure, and Naruto grunted as he splattered their faces and chests with his cum, making them moan from the feel and smell of it before they began to lick themselves and each other off, finding they enjoyed the taste. Lime end. All four panted slightly, with Naruto's being less as they came down from their respective orgasms before Naruto gave all three of their asses a couple playful slaps, getting yelps from the three. "Shower anyone?" he asked with a smirk, making them widen their eyes with a blush before they nodded and took their bras off, showing Haku had perky nipples, Eevee had longer ones, and Tsunami's were inverted. Naruto got up and gave all three a soul-searing kiss that made their knees weak before they went to the bathroom and cleaned up, with each girl getting her own meticulous time cleaning his cock while he reciprocated with their tits and lower regions. About a half hour later, Naruto came out and threw on some pants before heading downstairs to make his girls some breakfast, while they came into the bedroom with smiles on their faces, having gotten to come a few times each during that shower, and it wasn't long before they were dressed and downstairs eating while Naruto kissed their cheeks and went to change into his mission attire. When he came down, Tsunami and Haku widened their eyes at it. The attire was an armor made of black hide of some kind with red vein-like designs going through it and had silver studs throughout it, with the knees, elbows, and knuckles being more pronounced. The top was a chest piece that covered his right shoulder with a silver eagle head pauldron and covered the torso entirely except just under his arms to allow comfort and mobility. There was also a cowl attached to the top part to cover his head, and there was an eagle design on the cowl, while the chest had a dragon on it in red. The left shoulder had a pauldron in the form of a wolf's head. The leggings were studded hide with some flaps around it to add extra padding and potentially distract the enemy. The boots were studded as well, with them reaching his mid-calf, and had realistic flame designs along the soles and lower part of the boots. And lastly, there was a hide jacket to go over the ensemble to both add more padding and to cover the armor if needed, and reached his knees, while the back had a growling bear designed on it in red. The under armor appeared to be some kind of black version of Lee and Guy's outfit, only a different material that showed his muscles and appeared hardened. At his waist was a belt with several pouches with the assassin's emblem as the buckle, 2 holsters for his handguns, and 2 more holsters at his ribcage with 2 other guns in them. He also had a sword and dagger on his waist that were hidden somewhat. All in all, he looked dangerous, mysterious, and sexy before he pulled the hood up and his face instantly darkened, with only his ghostly blue eyes being seen in the darkness. Naruto came up and kissed them all on the cheek before he headed out to see the finals of the Chunin exams. After he left, Eevee went up to the office and just looked over the collection of 86 books with Roman numerals spread across each one for their number. She ran her fingers across them, feeling the preserved yet clearly old leather, wishing she could look into them. "You know, Naruto-kun doesn't want us to read those yet," Eevee heard Haku say, and turned to see both her and Tsunami there looking on curiously. Eevee smiled. "I know, but I'm excited for when he does. I mean, how can I not be with the information that's held within them?" she stated, then asked and saw the confused looks on their faces. "Don't you know what these are?" she asked, and they shook their heads, and she smiled and turned back to the books and ran her fingers over them again. "These are his private journals, each one records 10 years of his life since he was 10. she stated, surprising them as she continued tracing her fingers over them. "I found out when he was in my home country and helping train me and my brother, and I saw him writing in it. I was only a little girl at the time, so he humored me and told me it was his most recent journal chronicling his adventures since he was 10 years old. Just imagine, centuries worth of events told from a first-hand perspective, each revolution, war, battle, civil war, rebellion, new era for man, and evolution of mankind that Naruto witnessed recorded in here in his experiences and thoughts about said items. Along with that, he also chronicled every training used, technique created and learned, weapon forged, tool crafted, and assassin he trained for all those years. She stated as she ran her fingers over them, more wishing she could know about the events that were told down through the Brotherhood's legacies. Haku then frowned. Then why wouldn't he want us to see them? She asked, and Evie gained a forlorn look as she brushed the books. She sighed as she retracted his hand and rested it by her side, because they also record every one of his kills, both against the assassins and the Templars over each decade and century that he was in my world. Every name, location, affiliation, profession, their job for their affiliation, roles in the world they were a part of, and how much damage they had done to the area they were in. Hundreds of thousands of kills over his lifetime as an assassin, holding true to his own beliefs and the creed. She stated knowing how much those lives took a toll on Naruto, mainly the sheer amount of killing over the who, since Naruto only killed someone he was sure was guilty and never made assumptions, since that led to others killing an innocent or good person such as Ezio Auditore when he was in Constantinople and killed the leader of the Janissaries. Haku walked up and brushed against the first volume, the one that would detail his early life and the hardships he faced in Konoha. This one will be the hardest. She stated, already guessing the pain that would be within, while Evie and Tsunami nodded their heads before leaving the study to relax before Evie would help them learn to fight a bit more. With Naruto. Naruto was moving through the village using his training to remain unseen yet seen at the same time as he moved quickly to the stadium, not to ensure he wasn't late, but he wanted to ensure certain parties weren't going to show favoritism towards the Konoha ninja competing by setting traps or anything. However, he had to smirk since he knew he was being followed, or at least they were trying to follow him, since the five had no way of blending like he and the other skilled assassins could, but he decided to lose them and show them just how outclassed they were, since they'd been following him since he left his home, and it was laughable how easy he could detect and find them. With that in mind, he jumped down into a crowd and began walking, and felt his followers still on the rooftops before they lost him. They jumped down and began looking before they were grabbed and pulled to a rooftop with blades put at their throats. To what do I owe the honor of being tracked by not only Anko Midarashi, but also Kurenai Yuhi, Yugo Yuzuki, and Hana and Tsuma Izuka? He asked as he held the 5 ice queens of Konoha with clones helping him and had hidden blades at their throats and could practically smell the arousal from Anko, Hana, and Tsuma at being handled so easily. Kurenai decided to speak up with a blush across her face from feeling his muscular arm against her. I don't know why Tsum-sama is here, but we wanted to let you know that we were chosen to go with you when you leave the village later. She stuttered out, and Hana, Yugo, and Anko nodded while Tsum was blushing and fidgeting as Naruto turned towards her. I wanted to speak to you about something Kuramaru mentioned to me. She stated as they looked and saw Kuramaru sitting there patiently. Naruto raised an eyebrow before his clones popped, and he released Yugo and stood in front of them. And that is? He asked, and Kuramaru stood and walked towards him before staring into his eyes intently. I wish to ask you to sign the wolf summoning contract, which I am a member of. He stated, surprising Hana, Anko, Kurenai, and Yugo while Naruto nodded. I expected as much. Your chakra network is very different to a normal Inuzuka hound's, and the fact that there are no other wolves in the Inuzuka clan tells me that you aren't a personal summon, but Tsum did something to gain your respect. He stated, making Kuramaru nod his head while the others, besides Tsum, looked intrigued. Yes, Tsum saved me when I was pup and I decided to stay with her, but I had no authority to offer the contract to her or anyone else of the Inuzuka, since they were more connected to dogs than wolves. However, you have a connection to wolves and 2 other animals, and I can reverse summon you and I to the wolves' home for you to meet with the leader and possibly sign the contract. He stated, surprising them all while Naruto nodded. That is acceptable, as the toads have stated that I should find another clan to bond with, and as long as it isn't the snakes then they don't mind, or at least that is the case till I can catch Manda and kill him before sending the carcass to Gamabunta to make a wallet for his wife. He stated, and the other looked at him incredulously before shaking their heads. However, I can't go right now. I'm going to finish watching the Chunin exams, then head out on some personal errands. He stated, and Kuramaru nodded in acceptance, and Naruto returned the nod before he popped his neck. Okay, I'll see you at the stadium. He stated before vanishing, making them widen their eyes. Naruto arrived at the stadium and saw many of the nobles and people of importance had already arrived, and scanned them all with eagle vision to see who he could possibly trust, and frowned at seeing 2 standing out near the nobles and moved down there with 2 clones stealthily making their way to the 2. Naturally, the nobles and samurai were surprised when Naruto made his appearance and he bowed respectfully towards them while Naruto noted 7 beautiful women among them that he had not been formally introduced to. One had long pink hair to the middle of her back, crystal blue eyes that held kindness yet determination, and wore an elegant white dress that showed her figure, especially her slightly pronounced chest area, was rather mature for her young appearance, and she had a simple gold tiara band around her head. The girl next to her was blonde with the same hair length, with a piercing stare to her blue eyes, and had a body that nearly matched the pink-haired one since she was more stacked in the lower area than in the chest area. She wore a white and blue battle gown with gold accents and some armor pieces that were matching to the gown. She had a gold tiara with a sapphire in the middle of it on her head, keeping her hair from her face and showing her elegant looks. Standing protectively by them were 2 beautiful women. One had brown hair and had armor that reminded him of a Valkyrie almost, but it was silver and showed her bust was almost to Tsunade's level, and she had a silver sword at her hip with said hips being wide and connected to a large ass. The other was a redhead in black pants that hugged her toned ass and heels boots with a red jacket on her torso showing off her cleavage that made her at least a DD cup, and the jacket had brown fur lining it. She had black gloves on and a pair of knives on her lower back. The things they all had in common was that it showed they were clearly trained to fight and that they all wore heels that matched their outfits. Naturally, Naruto knew who they were: Lady Prim Fireire, her best friend Lady Alicia Arcturus, Alicia's guard and friend since she was a little girl Claudia Levantine, and Prim's guard and friend since childhood Maya, no surname. The other 3 were a tall redhead wearing Valkyrie-like armor, but it was silver with blue accents that showed off her athletic body, had a large sword on her back with a dark blue cloak behind her, and had boots on her feet. The second was a blonde with her hair flowing from a hairband that had cat ears of all things on it, a dark blue and light blue striped outfit similar to a tiger's pattern that was a choker and leotard with boots finishing it off, paw-like gloves that had sharp claws on them, and she had a cat tail attached right above her petite ass. And the third was a blonde with her hair double braided at the front with large steel rings at the end of the braids, a corset-style armor that made her breasts more pronounced, a kind of metal skirt that just reached mid-thigh, and steel boots that reached her knee. Naruto knew these women as well. The first was Claudette Vance, the eldest daughter of Lord Nobunaga's captain of the guard and a fighter in her own right. Second was Elena Vance, Claudette's youngest sister, and was one of 2 in charge of guarding Nobunaga's children. And the third was Lena Vance, Claudette's oldest sister, and was the other in charge of guarding Nobunaga's children. All in all 7 were strong in their own right, since his spies everywhere had been able to find that they were all trained since they were 5 to be able to fight somehow, and they had taken well to it. Naruto then broke from his musings and bowed his head towards Nobunaga. Lord Nobunaga, he stated with his voice, cluing said daimyo in on the figure being Naruto since the armor hid most of the identifying areas. "Ah, Naruto-san, I'm glad you are here. Please allow me to introduce." He started, but Naruto was already bowing to the women. "A pleasure to make your acquaintance, Ladies Prim, Alicia, Claudette, Elena, and Lena, and you as well, Lady Claudia and Lady Maya," he stated as he removed his hood, and the women blushed lightly at his looks and the power he had swarming in his eyes. However, he also saw they were surprised he knew them, and he smiled slightly. "As I said yesterday, you'd be amazed what a good spy network can dig up," he stated with them nodding slightly before Prim smiled. "It was a most impressive display you gave yesterday, Naruto-san," she stated with the others nodding, and Naruto nodded with a smile. "Thank you, though I hope the brutality of some of it was not too discomforting for you. If it was, I apologize," he stated, and they nodded back to him, indicating they understood and accepted the apology. "By the way, Naruto-san, I wish to request something of you," Nobunaga stated as Naruto turned to full address him. "These ladies will be coming with me to the capital to train there for a time and to possibly find a suitor for Prim and Alicia. I was wondering if you would consider going to the capital to train them for a time?" he asked, and the women perked up the possibility of training with him. Naruto sighed and shook his head. "I'm afraid I can't, Lord Nobunaga. You see, I'm leaving the village for at least a couple weeks to go on a bit of a rescue mission due to news reaching me from my spy network about some individuals," he stated, making Nobunaga frown. "I will still be able to be reached by my apprentices, who will remain at my home to continue their training, while Lady Tsunade and Shizen-chan will handle anything specific they need, but I will be outside of the village and even the country while I am gone. However, I can escort them to the capital with your guards, and they may come here at any time to be trained if they wish," he informed, then offered, and Nobunaga nodded his acceptance. "That will be their decision, just as it is for who they wish to court," he stated with a smirk as the girls blushed and Naruto chuckled. I doubt they would want an old man like me, but regardless if they or their guards wish to learn combat from me or other items that may suit them, then they may get in touch with you or Tsunade-sama, and then one of you can get in touch with me or my apprentices." He stated with a chuckle, making a few raised eyebrows at his statement. "Excuse me, Naruto-san, but you can't be much older than myself," Lena stated, and the others nodded, and Naruto chuckled more. "Appearances can be very deceiving. I mean, no offense to Tsuchan when I say this, but just look at our Hokage for proof that you can't always go by appearances," he stated with a small smile before looking at the field. "Well, I'll be at the gate right after the finals to wait for you all, but I must go now as I have a few things to handle," he stated before giving them a bow of respect but not of submission before he was gone in a swirl of wind. After he was gone, Prim giggled with a blush. "He's a handsome one," she stated, making the other women giggle as well and Nobunaga to smile, since it was a little known fact that Prim and Alicia were his goddaughters and he wouldn't be opposed if they sought a relationship with Naruto, though they'd have to accept he was most likely going to have more than them. Oh well, they could figure that out for themselves, and the fact that he may not like some of the quirks they have, namely Elena being in love with Lena. None of them noticed that two people in their area disappeared and were now in another location dead. Back with Naruto, he was in a more secure area of the stadium where a certain cripple was with some of his root soldiers. "What do you want, brat?" Danzo growled as Naruto walked forward and looked over the root soldiers before he threw a knife in one's throat and kept walking. When the other root moved to attack him, Naruto raised his hand and they froze in place with a gold glow around them. "Relax, he wasn't one of yours," Naruto stated as he motioned to Danzo to look at the root member. Danzo frowned and moved and knocked the mask off with his cane before growling at the sight. "See? Now that the rat is taken care of, I would like to talk business with the real Danzo," Naruto stated as he released the root umbu and they sheathed their weapons before Danzo slumped slightly inside. "What can I do for you, Naruto-san?" he asked, his voice losing the edge but still holding the commander-esque presence to it. Naruto smiled. He and his Hokage Gigi had always believed that something had happened to change Danzo, as he was Hiruzen's best friend up until he had to disband Root, except contrary to popular belief it was Danzo that wanted to disband it. "I wanted to talk to you about Root and helping you with something very dear to you," he stated, making Danzo widen his eyes in surprise. "Don't be alarmed, Hokage Gigi tasked me with finding out what happened to you to make you so cold and do what I could to help. I know that you weren't having your men become completely emotionless and only had them do so while in combat, but then someone got you into a corner and took command of some of your root and made them into what everyone else knows them as. What I am offering is to help you clean out Root and then take over when you're ready to step down and kill the person who has the proverbial knife to your throat," Naruto stated, making Danzo widen his eye slightly before he smiled sadly, thinking of his brother figure Hiruzen. "Do you understand what you are saying you will do?" he asked quietly, and Naruto nodded seriously. "Yes, I'm saying I'll kill Himura and let you have Koharu back in your life without either of you having to fear him or his subordinates," Naruto stated, since he wanted to fulfill the last wish of his Gigi. "Aside from obliterating Orochimaru at some point, and let Danzo have his peace, I can't do anything about it, technically, until I come back from a recruiting trip I am going on, but Himura will not be a problem for long regardless of if you will let me take over Root and everything," he stated, giving Danzo the hidden meaning that Himura was going to die while he was officially outside the village to throw suspicion off himself. "If you do this, then you'll have to kill him and all of his Root or it won't end well for me or Koharu," Danzo stated, as he wanted to be clear that if one of Himura's Root survived they would go after Koharu just to strike at Danzo. Naruto nodded. "Some friends of mine are already looking for and marking them for me," Naruto stated with a predatory smirk on his face. "Once I'm sure I've marked them all, they'll be removed quickly and effectively without Himura having time to retaliate," he stated confidently, and Danzo raised an eyebrow. "How can you be sure that you have them all?" Danzo asked, since there was no definite way to know, at least to his knowledge, if he was able to eliminate them all. Naruto smirked. Himura kept very accurate records, but didn't protect them as well as he kept them accurate, Naruto stated, surprising Danzo and his members of Root before Naruto pulled a pocket watch out and checked the time. Forgive me, Danzo-san, but I must go as I have a few more people to see before the finals start," he stated as he raised his hood again, and Danzo nodded before Naruto was gone, and Danzo slumped in his seat hoping Naruto would come through for him. Kage booth. Naruto appeared in the Kage booth, surprising the Kages and their guards before he pulled his hood down and was immediately glumped by a blur with green hair. "Naruto-kun. Fu is so happy to see you again." The green-haired girl from Waterfall, now known as Fu, stated as she hugged his larger frame and pushed her decently sized breasts against his torso, and Naruto chuckled as he returned the hug while Fu now rubbed her face against his body. "Hello Fu-chan, you're even more beautiful than I remember," he stated, making the dark-skinned girl blush and Tsunade to pout a bit before she hit it. Naruto then looked at the Waterfall Kage. "Shibuki-san, nice to see you are still alive and well," he stated, and Shibuki nodded in return since he, Naruto, and Fu had gotten close during the mission Naruto was on to help Waterfall against a usurper that tried to use the hero's water to better his odds of taking over and using Fu, only for Shibuki, Fu, and Naruto to kick his ass. "And you as well, Naruto-san," Shibuki stated while smiling at Fu clinging to Naruto since the girl had a massive crush on the blonde and it had broken her heart to hear that he had disappeared. He hadn't seen her smile or shed tears that weren't of sorrow since then up until yesterday when he revealed he was back, and he had to keep Fu from rushing down there to hug him and never let him go since he didn't want her fighting him. His only sadness right now was that she still identified herself in the third person, retaliation to how his village treated her before he took over, and he had been making it a point to stop them and help Fu see he already accepted her and knew she was herself, not her contained demon. He shook those thoughts away since it didn't matter if she called herself that or not, since she was safe and happy and would be more of both when he set his own plan into motion. "I must say that was an interesting and impressive display you gave yesterday," he stated with the other Kage and the guards nodding, though Kuratsuchi and Yujito blushed, remembering him being charming, and kissing their hands. "Thank you, though that isn't the full extent of what I can do," Naruto stated, knowing that the other Kages needed to know not to mess with him or Konoha so long as he was around. He then turned to the field. It seems they are about to start," he stated, and sure enough the proctor, who was Ganma, came out just after he spoke. As Naruto watched the finals, he idly remembered some of his times training assassins. One memory came to the forefront of his mind. It was in the 15th century when he was helping Ezio Auditore train. Flashback, 1477, Italy, Monteriggioni. Naruto was standing on a landing overlooking the training field as he watched the newest potential assassin, Ezio Auditore, train against one of Mario's soldiers, and saw that he did indeed have the inherent talent of an assassin based on how fast he was learning. Naruto had done this every day for the months Ezio had been there and trained at Mario's insistence to at least better protect Ezio's mother and sister. However, he seemed resistant to the idea, and that was problematic since Giovanni had wanted Ezio to know and join the Brotherhood. Naruto sighed tiredly, deservedly so since he was pushing 300 years old. "Giovanni, your son will either become one of the greatest assassins in their history or a great disappointment to you, if you were to think like an assassin. I do not know which you and Maria would have preferred if you had given him the choice," Naruto thought while looking back on how he was too late to save Giovanni and the man's oldest and youngest sons, but was impressed that Ezio's adaptiveness that he showed going after Uberto and even delivering the letter to his family so he wouldn't become like the Templars. He shook those thoughts away at seeing Ezio fighting hard and hearing his chat with Mario before Naruto moved to go down the steps and moved to the ring. Naruto hopped the railing and motioned for the mercenary to leave, which he did since Mario had made it clear that Naruto had authority within the walls of Monteriggioni. Naruto drew his own sword, a blade that was styled after Altair's, but the eagle head design at the pommel was more intricate, and stood before Ezio. Ezio was hesitant to move as he was not sure what this was entailing before Naruto walked forward and Ezio readied his blade before Naruto merely slammed his fist on the end, knocking it out of Ezio's hand before he caught it and held both blades at Ezio's throat. Naruto stood there waiting before he frowned heavily. "Well? What are you doing, boy?" he asked, getting annoyed at the lack of movement on Ezio's part, and the confusion was only increasing his annoyance. "Why aren't you fighting back? You have more weapons than this sword. Do you honestly believe your enemies will just stop when the blade is put at your throat?" he asked, and Ezio frowned before he flexed his hand and moved to stab Naruto, who twisted away and kicked Ezio in the back, sending him to the ground. "You're a coward, boy. Instead of fighting to kill or stop the ones who killed your father and brothers, you're going to run and hide because you think it would be easier," Naruto stated, stabbing both blades into the ground and walking towards Ezio, who was up and rubbing some dirt from his face while Mario merely looked on impassively. "I can't afford to do that while my mother and sister are in danger. Their safety is my priority along with my duty now," Ezio stated as he swung at Naruto, only to have his fist caught before he received 3 blows to the stomach, forcing the air from his lungs. Naruto then gripped him by his collar and slammed him into the railing while glaring at him. "And what about Mario? Do you think he doesn't feel the pain after losing his brother and nephews, or the fear that Maria, Claudia, or even you will be next? Naruto demanded, making Ezio freeze. He knows better than you do that your enemies will keep hunting you no matter where you run. You think you will be safe in Spain? The Templars are there too and will hunt you down just for the blood that runs in your veins. Naruto stated before he gave a right cross to Ezio, knocking him down before Naruto got him back up and pinned him to the railing. You want your mother and sister safe? Then stay in Monteriggioni, where your uncle has an army of men willing to defend his family and the city. You barely survived the skirmish with Vieri before Mario and I showed up. Do you think he won't attack again with even more soldiers? Naruto shouted, making Ezio look down in thought before Naruto turned and threw him to the ground. You're not protecting your mother and sister, you're running from your pain and fear. Naruto stated as he grabbed his sword and left the area with Mario nodding to him as he passed. Flashback end. It was only 3 months later that Ezio killed Vieri and then continued hunting down the other Templars, and it was impressive with how effective he was and how many different soldiers he could handle, as well as him learning that sometimes you do not need to kill someone and that others it was essential to peace that they die. The Borgias were a prime example of the latter, Lucrezia excluded since she left the limelight after Cesare died. Naruto broke from his musings as he felt Fu move slightly. Are you alright, Naruto-kun? She asked as he had been staring at the field for a while with a lost look in his eyes, and he blinked a few times before turning back to Fu and smiled. I'm alright, Fu-chan, just reminiscing a bit is all. He stated with a smile as he kissed her forehead, making her blush and smile as she laid her head on his chest, making him chuckle lightly. He idly noticed Tsunade wanted to be in her place and he smirked before winking at her, making her blush as she thought about the kiss they had the night before and turned back to the arena floor. The matches went by without any real incident, though many felt that the matches were boring compared to the exhibition the day before, but it was entertaining in some fashion regardless. After it was declared over, Naruto broke the embrace with Fu and went to Tsunade. Tsunade-sama, I will be leaving shortly to escort the fire daimyo and his guests back home at his request, and then I will be handling that matter I discussed with you. Naruto stated, and Tsunade nodded with a smile. Alright, just be safe please, I just got you back after all. She stated before he surprised everyone by leaning in and kissing her cheek, making her blush before pulling back with a smile. Of course, Su-chan, I still have to take you on a date after all. He stated with a smile, making her blush a bit more while the other Kage were shocked. As they began filing out, Shibuki stayed behind a minute with Fu. Naruto-san, I will be going with you to the fire daimyo's palace before heading home, but Fu-chan is going to stay with you. He stated seriously, and Naruto sighed and nodded. I thought so, since my spy network has been picking up murmurs that your village has only become more of a pain in the ass when concerning Fu and her biju. Naruto stated since some of his merchant contacts had in fact sold some items to some waterfall ninja and heard them grumbling that they still hadn't put their demon bitch in her place yet. Fu looks saddened. Fu hates everyone in the village except Shibuki Nizan. Fu would rather stay with Naruto-kun and be safe. She stated, and Naruto nodded with a smile as he cupped her cheek and caressed it gently, making her blush. Of course, you can stay with me, Fu-chan, but you need to behave around the others that stay with me, both male and female. He stated, and Fu smiled and nodded happily. Fu understands Naruto-sama. Fu will be friendly and only crush those that betray Naruto-sama or those close to him. She stated, with her calling him Sama after her biju informed her of its own view of things, since Naruto was definitely the strongest of anyone connected to the biju, thus he was technically her superior while staying in his home and basically being her protector. Naruto chuckled. No need to call me Sama, Fu-chan, but if you feel you must, then only do so when I am giving you a command, since I will be training you and I expect you to follow my orders while in the field, alright? He stated, and Fu nodded with a smile as she kissed his cheek and blushed. Thank you, Naruto-kun. She stated before she hugged him again, and Naruto chuckled while rubbing her back. Naruto then turned to Tsunade and gave her another kiss to the cheek, making her blush and smile. I'll be back as soon as I can. But did you really need to pick 4 people to go with me, and all women at that? He asked, and Tsunade smirked. I didn't pick anyone, they volunteered. Yugo apparently stayed behind in my office last night and wanted to go with you, and when she was asking to go, Anko and Karina heard her. As for the 4th, I guess it was one of them that asked them to go. Who was it? She stated, then asked curiously, and Naruto nodded. Hana Inuzuka. He stated simply, and Tsunade nodded with an of course look on her face. Well, I should get to the gate. I'll see you soon, Su-chan. He stated, giving her a light kiss, making her blush and smile before he left with Fu and Shibuki. At the gate, 10 minutes later. Naruto stood with Fu and Shibuki as the fire daimyo's convoy came up along with Anko, Kurenai, Yugo, Hana's hounds, Mifune, and the samurai, and Naruto nodded towards them before Shibuki mounted a horse and Naruto, Kurenai, Anko, Yugo, Hana, and Fu began walking with the convoy towards the capital. After a bit, Naruto fell back to walk beside Mifune. So Mifune-sama, do you and your samurai only use katanas, or do you use other weapons as well? Naruto asked curiously, as he hadn't known if his world's samurai were the same as the other worlds, since the few he had seen were only armed with katanas. Mifune looked at Naruto curiously. We use only katanas and occasionally a wakizashi, why do you ask? Mifune informed, then asked with others, being interested as well. Naruto nodded. I see, during my time away I went to a place that had a great deal of samurai, but they used 4 weapons total, the katana, the naginata, the yumi, and the kanabo. I had never met many samurai from these lands, so I was interested in if they were like ours or not. Naruto stated as he walked easily, keeping pace with the horses and carriages. Mifune frowned. I'm afraid I don't know those weapons or why a samurai would choose to use them. He stated as he rode beside Naruto, not really seeing the point of using another weapon besides the katana if they followed the ways of Bushido. Naruto smiled. Well, they still followed the code of honor and dignity, but they allowed their warriors that weren't as skilled with the sword to learn another form of weaponry, as they had warriors that were much more bulky and had raw power over the usual finesse and discipline that was customary. So they gave them the weapon called the kanabo, which was a large war club that the strongest and powerful users mastered expertly and was primarily for use against those that had thick and heavy armor or used shields. Then there were those who were blind or had lost fingers to an incident that did not have to do with dishonor, so they made the yumi bao, as it needed discipline and commitment to use it to its full extent, since I once saw a man put an arrow through the eyes of an armored opponent at 50 yards and it was one right after the other and the man was blind. Naruto informed, making Mifune and a few others nod their heads, as it made sense to them that if the katana wasn't a weapon that you could use correctly, then another weapon should be given and they could see the benefits. And the other? Kurenai asked as she was nearby and was curious as well. Naruto smiled. The naginata was developed for those who had to face mounted warriors while they were on foot, but it was used normally as well since it gave the person a significant increase in reach. It was a pull-arm weapon with shaft usually as tall as the user and then a blade that was usually the length of a katana at the end of it that can be used for impaling, hacking, slashing, or sweeping attacks. It's funny, there were a few cases on the battlefield of a warrior taking a sword and large branch and tying the ends together and making their own naginata. He stated / explained as he knew that a katana was usable against a mounted opponent, but the naginata gave more options. Mifune nodded. While the katana was good, it did suffer from the disadvantage of being on foot versus a mounted warrior. I see, most interesting. Tell me, Naruto-san, do you have any of these weapons or proficiency with them that you could demonstrate them to me? He asked curiously and saw both his men and the fire daimyos were interested as well. Naruto nodded. Yes, I have them and I have mastered them as well as the samurai who trained me in them. I will be glad to show you them and how to use them effectively. He stated as they kept moving. By the way, Mifune-sama, have you ever considered putting seals on your blades? Naruto asked, getting a curious eyebrow from Mifune as they continued onto the capital. A few hours later, Naruto and his group were leaving the capital after escorting the convoy there, and Naruto showed Mifune the weapons he had mentioned and then gave Mifune 3 of each from his collection of weapons after he saw their capabilities. Mifune had been grateful and had even suggested an alliance with Konoha, and trade between Fire and Iron Country may be possible soon, which made Nobunaga very happy at the prospect, and with Naruto vouching for the village, he also increased the budget and was going to send along a report of this to Tsunade while Naruto was off doing his business. Both Mifune and Nobunaga were interested in the prospect of seals on the blades, as Naruto had explained that they could keep the weapons from being damaged, aging, or losing their edge, and they could be used as a training method by increasing the weight of the item, and then in combat could change it back so the user swung faster and had more muscle built up to fight with. Naruto had then gone on to state that seals could be used to store chakra over a time so samurai could launch it out in attacks even if they were tired, thus giving them a larger advantage. Then there was fireproofing armor, making tougher, lighter, more durable, and more, and it had intrigued the two greatly. They both agreed to see him about some prospects at a later time, since it would greatly increase the mortality rate of the samurai and help them grow stronger. At the moment, the group, which now included Fu, was heading towards the Valley of the End, though only Naruto knew why. Naruto-kun, Fu is wondering where we are going. Fu stated as they jumped through the trees while trying to keep pace with Naruto as he led. Naruto smiled back at her. We are heading towards the Valley of the End, as I need to do something near there. If it works, then I'll have a new recruit to train in the different arts I know. If not, then we move on to the next area I want to hit quickly and quietly. Naruto stated cryptically as he kept jumping from tree to tree with greater ease than his companions since he was trained to do it without chakra, so this was a regular experience for him. Naturally, this intrigued his female companions, and it was Anko that spoke up. And what exactly are you going to do? Also, where are we going afterwards? Anko asked as she followed him, occasionally checking out his rear end when he jumped. Naruto smirked, to see if I can bring back Kimimaro Kagaya, and afterwards will depend on if I can do it successfully. He stated, shocking the Konoha as they knew from the reports that the Kagaya was dead and that Gaara and Lee had buried the albino. How the hell can you do that, and furthermore why the hell would you even want to? Anko stated as she kept jumping and looked at Naruto like he was nuts. Naruto smiled slightly, something I picked up, literally, while I was away. As for why, he was used by Orochimaru as a pawn while being led to believe he was viewed as a son to the snake team. That is unforgivable in my book, and he deserves a chance to have a life free of that snake's lies and stupidity, since he didn't even have Kimimaro find a lover to possibly continue the clan. Naruto stated as he kept jumping, recognizing some of the areas where they fought the Sound 4 and knew they were getting close. The others were silent at Naruto's statement as they kept following him. I will not deny that his fighting prowess is a strong motivator to have him added to my slowly growing group, but he's also someone that just drew a bad hand by being found by Orochimaru before anyone else. That hardly seems like something he should be punished for, though I suspect I'll have to fight and knock some sense into him when he learns I plan to kill his beloved master. Naruto stated as he kept going while the others were quiet due to the fact he was right. It only took about another hour before they arrived at Kimimaro's grave, and Naruto got to work digging up his body before finding him buried just past 6 feet. Naruto knelt over the slightly withered body of the albino and flexed his right hand, making a golden spectral image of an apple of Eden appear, and pressed it into Kimimaro's chest and watched the body begin refilling itself as dead muscle regained life. His skin took some of the little color it had back, and his heart began to beat. A moment later, Kimimaro's eyes snapped open before he lunged forward and tackled Naruto, knocking them out of the grave, and Naruto grunted before the two rolled until Naruto put both feet against Kimimaro's chest and kicked him back, sending him into a tree. Naruto stood and held his hand up to stop the others as Kimimaro got up and growled, "Where am I? How long have I been out?" Kimimaro growled out as bones came out of his hands, and he stared at Naruto. Naruto sighed and pulled his hood down. "You're right where you fought me before fighting my friends Lee and Gaara. As for how long, you've been dead for 5 years before I brought you back," Naruto stated before he tilted his head to the side, letting the bone bullets that Kimimaro fired pass his head harmlessly. Naruto then watched as Kimimaro charged him with spikes in his palms and just sighed as he slammed them into his ribcage and grabbed both of his arms. "Look, you pain-in-the-ass albino, your beloved Orochimaru left you for dead and didn't give a damn about you. Some of my spies even said he was looking for more members of the Kagaya clan to replace the disappointment that he had, since apparently he didn't like that you were defective when it came to your disease," Naruto stated, making Kimimaro growl as he didn't want to believe that. "Now, I brought you back to give you another shot at life and was even working on removing your disease before your little temper tantrum, but if you're too blinded by that stupidity that is your loyalty to Orochimaru, then I might as well put you back in the ground," Naruto stated before he slammed his palms into Kimimaro's chest, sending him flying back into a tree while the bones from his hands shattered and fell to the ground. Kimimaro slowly got to his feet while some blood went down his chin before he was grabbed by the throat and pinned to the tree by Naruto. "Now then, make your choice. You can either continue to fight for a bastard that doesn't give a damn about you, or you can join me, become healthy, gain a family and allies, get stronger, and maybe find a woman that you can create your own family with," Naruto stated while glaring at the albino. Kimimaro was silent for a long moment as he hung there where Naruto had him pinned before he took a breath. Can you really heal me?" he asked while seeming to be exhausted, which wasn't surprising since the adrenaline was wearing off and he had been dead for 5 years. Naruto nodded. "Of course, unlike that bastard you used to serve, I don't lie to someone I want as my ally. As you stand right now, you maybe have 2 months to live if you don't push yourself, but I can not only cure you but also have one of the greatest medics in the elemental nations give you routine checks to ensure you remain healthy," Naruto stated as he saw the conflict within Kimimaro's eyes, as he wanted to live and have an actual life, but didn't want to betray the man that gave him a purpose. After what felt like an eternity to Kimimaro, he nodded, "Heal me and you will have my loyalty till the day I die," he stated, locking eyes with Naruto, and Naruto nodded before he released Kimimaro, and his hand gained the spectral orb again, but this time it released an arch of yellow lightning at Kimimaro's chest, making him gasp and freeze as the lightning burned the disease away and cleaned his lungs. When Naruto felt it was done, he withdrew his hand and Kimimaro collapsed onto his hands and knees with a coughing fit. "Slow breaths, Kimimaro. Your lungs need to get used to being able to properly breathe again," Naruto stated, and Kimimaro listened and began breathing slower before he looked to Naruto and pushed himself to one knee with his head bowed. "I, Kimimaro Kagaya, do hereby swear to serve you and your people till the day I die, and nothing short of my life ending will stop me," Kimimaro stated before he found his new master extending a hand out, and Kimimaro took it and stood before Naruto. "I welcome you, Kimimaro, but I do not need a slave or servant. However, I will take a comrade and brother in arms," Naruto stated as he extended his hand again, and Kimimaro hesitated for a moment before he took the hand and shook it, making Naruto nod. "Excellent, we can get you properly attired and equipped later, as I am not returning to my current home for a time, so this will do for now," Naruto stated as he touched a seal on his belt and a loose dark blue jacket came out, and he handed it to Kimimaro. Kimimaro was confused until he realized that apparently he lost his shirt before he died and took the jacket before placing it on. Naruto nodded. "Good, now come, we're going to Water Country to get 3 people out of there, and I wish to talk with you about the different bases your master possessed so I can find some individuals that have caught my interest," Naruto stated, and Kimimaro nodded before the two walked back to the others and they began the long trek to Water Country while the women were just trying to figure out what the hell Naruto was going to do next. Water Country. Deep in Water Country, within the village hidden in the mist, a woman in a blue dress and had red hair laid in a cell chained to the wall. She had been there for over a year after she was betrayed by one of her commanders from the Civil War. She had given up hope after a year since her chakra was sealed off and her strength was practically drained from lack of food and water, but now she felt that something had changed. She just had to survive long enough to see if she was right. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.